Please note that the content of this episode has explicit language and is not suitable for underage listeners. Hi, I'm CJ, and I've been doing phone sex for 23 years. Let's get started. Hi there. Okay, so I was thinking about this, and I thought I'd mention this. Why not? There was a TV show on Netflix called Bonding. Let me backtrack a little bit. So, as I've mentioned to you before, I know what I'm good at, and I know what I'm not. One of the things I'm not good at is domination. Dominatrix, being a dominatrix, being called a dominatrix, being called mistress, all those things I'm not comfortable with. And over the years, like I've said, I've read books, I've watched TV shows, I've watched movies, and nothing has helped me. And so I've given up the whole dominatrix thing. So I got really excited when there was this show on Netflix called Bonding. It was about a girl who was putting herself through school to become a lawyer, but she was also a dominatrix. And so I thought, let me try again to watch a show and see if that could help me, because then I could expand my repertoire, if you will. And I watched it and I loved it. And I loved her demeanor and her just being so dominating and forceful, and it didn't help me at all. And so I really do try, and people don't understand that. I tell you this like almost every third podcast or something, that people don't understand how I just can't do it. And I really have a desire to be bitchy and dominating and powerful. And it's not that I don't feel powerful, because in my role as a phone sex queen operator person, I do feel very powerful and in control. But I'd like to have that different kind of power over a man and tell him he's a little bitch and crawl on the floor or whatever the case may be. It's not really like that, but you know what I mean? And it's just not my nature, and I have to accept it. And every few years I try again, and every few years I give it up. So I just wanted to mention that I really do try. People think, that I have a strong personality in my personal life, that I'm stubborn and all these things, and that should resonate or reflect, or whatever the word is. It should go into my work life, but it just doesn't really do that. There's no crossover there. So it is not my nature to do that or to be that. So I accept it and I move on. But I thought I'd let you know. Another caller came to mind, and it was interesting because he hasn't called me in a while, and I'm okay with that. So this guy would call me and tell me that he would pay to go to a woman in Los Angeles, actually, where he would get caned. And he asked me if I like to be spanked. And I said, yeah, I do. I like an occasional spanking. But this was a little different. I should say a lot different. So he wanted me to go with him to get caned. And he would ask me all sorts of questions. What would I choose? Would I choose a riding crop? Would I choose a cane? Would I choose a paddle? Would I choose a hand? I said, well, in my personal life, a hand, obviously. That's all I've ever had, is a hand spank my butt. But he would say, well, how many licks do you think you could take? And do you think you would cry? And thinking about it, I would say, yeah, well, of course I would cry. Well, could you take 35? I don't think so. Not with a cane. It sounds very painful. And he would tell me about how it would make him cry, and that his partner would be in the room with him and he would do these things. And I never understood why. I get spanking. It's again, you being submissive and someone dominating, or it's just playful. But this was very painful. And I would look at the website that he would tell me to go to, and he'd go, well, which person would you choose and why? And he would make me read the description of the person, and he would tell me who he's gone to. And there was a time where he would call me like week after week and tell me he had just gone and he took 100 licks and he couldn't sit for a couple of days and how he had welts. And this was a very serious thing. And I'm not remembering exactly what in his childhood brought him to this and in his adulthood, but I found it to be very interesting. he would ask me if I wanted a man or a woman. He'd ask me if I would want him in the room. He was very serious about taking me to this place. And like I said, he would call week after week and ask me different questions. Would I really want to do it? And so there was a point. I think there comes a time when someone introduces me to something that I think I should probably try it and have an experience. But then I realize in my real life, I don't feel a need to experience that. And I think he stopped calling me because he realized I wasn't serious, which I think bothered him because he was very serious. And he did have a girlfriend. They didn't live in the same state. But when they got together, they would enjoy this together. She would do it. He would do it, and they would both be in the room and watch each other. And it reminded me, when I was thinking about this to tell you about it, about a movie that I absolutely loved. So there's this movie called The Secretary with James Spader and Maggie Gyllenhaal, where she is very submissive. He is very dominant, and he spanks her, and she loves it. And there's a scene where she tries to spank herself with she doesn't try. She does. She spanks herself with a brush. It's just not the same doing it to yourself as if someone is doing it to you or for you. So you should check it out if you like that kind of thing. It's, I think, a really sweet movie. I know that's sick. I have had my friends watch it and they think I'm pretty warped. And I have a side to me that's a little warped. Obviously, I'm doing this. But anyway, so I think this guy, you never know if he'll call me back and ask me again to go to one of these places, lady or man. But I find these types of fetishes very interesting, the origin of them. And as I think about it some more, I do think it came from his mother and not his father spanking him. And him enjoying it. Do you want it over the knee? Do you want to be bent over? Do you want to be laid down? I mean, very specific questions on how I would want it done and how he does get it done. So that's something different that you may not have thought about. I certainly hadn't. So much like this place, going somewhere and hiring someone to spank you, I have had people call me and ask me if I have been in a swinging relationship. I know there's swingers. I have or had a friend who was a swinger, would go on swinging cruises and such. But what I'm talking about is a place that someone told me about in San Francisco, and they said that they have them in LA, or at least they used to. I'm not sure that they exist anymore, and they probably do, but I'm very naive thinking that they don't. But there were places in San Francisco, I'll just use that as my example, where you would go with your partner, person, whatever, someone from the opposite sex, I do believe. You'd pay a fee to get in, and they had rooms. Now, you'd probably all going to say, yeah, you've heard this before. I haven't told you this before, but you've heard this before, maybe not. So you'd go in and you'd pay X amount of dollars. You could go watch, and there's a room where someone's chained up. There's all sorts of different rooms that you can look in. There are multiple people having sex, like an orgy. There's a swing. There's all sorts of different things. And I would get calls. Not a lot, but there was a period of time where I would get multiple calls, from different people, asking me if I had been to these places. Typically, I would say no. But after I heard about it for a while, I would say, yeah, I went once and I didn't participate. I'd watch. Then I'd have people call me and say they'd want a role play, that we went to one of these places, and I never did any research to look at them or to look up, but these people would tell me. Different people would tell me about these places, mostly in California. I never heard about these places out of state. But you could go and you could have voyeuristic sex, or you could just be a voyeur yourself. And I found that to be interesting, that people would go and do this. And it isn't like the spanking thing. It's not something that I wanted to experience. However, I think that there was a time, I'm guessing maybe 15 years ago, where I thought if someone took me to one of those places in my real life, then I would not want to participate because I'm a very shy person. But I think that if you are a voyeur, that going and watching could be exciting if that's something that you're into. I just didn't realize that there were actual places. I can't imagine it in my head It sounded very unsanitary. They said, the people that would call me would say, yeah, when you walk in, there's bowls of condoms. Everybody's using a condom. It's very clean. But I just couldn't imagine that. And I come from a place where, as my sister says, she lives in a bubble. I'm not so bubble-like, but I also didn't realize that these places were real. I thought they were made up and people just would talk about them, but they weren't actually, a place that you could go to. I imagine from what I heard that they were hundreds of dollars to get into. And I thought, well, if you're spending hundreds of dollars, the person that you're going with is going to want to participate. And you'd have to be in the right mindset to be talked into participating, because just going there and watching, it's almost, you can watch a porn. It's not the same as being somewhere in person, but it's similar to that. And along the same lines, I've mentioned this to you before, going to a porn store. In LA, there's the Pleasure Chest. There's some around town where they have the movie rooms, right? And I talk about the movie rooms a lot, where I would tell callers, go to a movie room and get your cock sucked in a glory hole. Callers would call me and tell me that they've gone to the movie rooms and they've gotten sucked off, and they leave the door open and guys would come in and fuck them or suck them or whatever. In certain areas of the country, you wouldn't imagine that this was available to you, but they pretty much are wherever a porn store is, where you can buy toys or movies or whatever. They do exist. Those movie rooms are not just to go sit and watch a movie. There are other things going on in there. And so, if you are naive, then you don't know that these places exist. And so I am out to share that they do exist. You just have to find them. And I think a lot of them are underground. And again, in 2024, they may not exist at all anymore. Things might have gotten cleaned up, except for the porn shops. So there's a lot out there. And if you want to experiment or try to find one of these places, you really probably have to look on the internet, on an underground type of site or a fetish site. There's all sorts of fetishes for whatever you're looking for. If you can think about it, it's out there. You just have to find it. And if you want to experience it, experience it. I know someone who went on a swinger cruise, and they told me that mattresses were on the floor in the cabins. It does exist. You can go out and have a whole lot of fun. If you want to go experience different things, you can find it. I can't help you find it. I'm really naive. I can maybe, that's not my job to help you find it. You've got to find it. But I can tell you about it, and I'm telling you that if there's something out there that you're thinking about and you don't want anyone else to know, you can find it out there. It's there. It is there for you. If it's not there for you where you live, it's somewhere else. Like when I talked to the man about being an adult baby, there are women, you can find that out. There are women who have that. You can do it for a day or a weekend or whatever. If you want to be adult baby, to go to this woman's house and she will treat you like a baby. There are things out there. You just have to find them. And if you want to be on the flip side of that, if you want to be the woman who does the caring for the adult baby or whatever it is that you want, it's there for you too. So I'm not advocating anything. I'm just putting it out there that if there's something that you want, there's something that you need, it's there. You just have to look for it. People are always talking about being their authentic self. Well, be your authentic self. Be who you want to be. Go experience what you want to experience. Don't hurt anyone in the process, but be true to yourself. That's what I always tell people. Whatever it is, you want to wear lingerie as a man, wear it. As a woman, you want to be something else. You want to be submissive, do it. You want to be dominant, do it. That's why on my last podcast, I think 2 podcasts before this one, I told you how to be a phone actress. I am guiding you. Whatever you want to do it. As long as it doesn't hurt anyone else, I think you should experience everything you want to experience in life. Know that all of this phone sex stuff, all of this stuff in your real life should just be fun. It should be playful and fun, not anything brutal or anything like that, as long as you're not hurting anyone. And if you can't tell your partner, that's a whole different thing. I already explained that it's really important to explain to your partner what you need, what you want, because otherwise they're coming to me or even worse. So, and it might be okay with you for them to come to me. You have to trust that they're not doing anything more than coming to me. You need to have fun and experiment. Nothing is bad in a safe, communicative space. There you go. That's my 2 cents for you. Came across a Dr. Ruth quote, and it says, "Don't share your fantasies unless you're sure your partner really wants to hear them." And so I think that's something to live by. I think that if you have a fantasy, you need to talk to your partner, see if they want to hear what you have to say, what you want. I personally think that sharing your fantasies is a wonderful thing as long as your partner wants to hear it and as long as you can hear theirs if they have any. And I will end with that because I think it's really appropriate and important. That's all for now. Thank you for listening to Secrets from a Phone Sex Queen, everything you always wanted to know about phone sex and more. Please reach out to me with your questions, comments, concerns, anything you want to say at phonesexqueen1@gmail.com. And on Facebook, it is CJCJ. Instagram is phonequeen1. If you are listening on YouTube, please don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell so you get notified when a new podcast is dropped. And until next time, stay sexy.